Hello and welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Michael Verrill and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development with the Sharp Financial Group. As CPAs and certified financial planners, we help first and second generation business owners increase cash flow, maximize business value, reduce tax liability, and create a plan to transition their most valuable asset to long-term family wealth and future legacy. Thank you for joining me for our continuing discussion on growth stories, where we hear from entrepreneurs and advisors who share secrets and advice on what owners need to know to grow. From time to time, information involving technology, life sciences, or healthcare companies may be discussed on this show. Those discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the program is pre-recorded and shown at a later date, some of those discussions may no longer be relevant. You should always seek advice from a financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm joined today by my co-host, Rija Bears. Rija has spent more than 15 years in research and consulting for corporate occupiers of space. Rija heads up the media and technology practices in Philadelphia, where she works with high-growth technology companies to help them develop real estate strategies to support business objectives. Rija also serves on the program development and outreach committees for Tech Girls, an organization focused on middle-aged schoolgirls and helping them experience or explore careers in technology. Rija, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining me for Growth Stories.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here.
So we haven't seen each other in a little while. It'd be great if you could share a recent client success story, something of interest that you're working on with some of your clients.
Sure. I guess what I would share is a new technology platform that we have that we're working with called Spacer. It's part of our Vantage and Advantage platform. And what we do is with new clients, we're able to take kind of their look as to how they'd like the offices to feel, size, how their employees will interact with each other, and ask them a series of questions. We can then take it with our floored module and turn it into a 2D and then a 3D with finishes model. So we're starting to fool around with that and see how people are really reacting.
What has been the reaction so far?
It's great. Yeah. It really blows people's minds that you're able to do this with them by your side. Right. In a matter of minutes, right, as opposed to before when you would go through a full-out programming process just to get the initial information you need to plan.
And that was laying on a 2D plan.
That's
and
right.
Kind of hard to picture yourself in that office without seeing the walls and everything
right.
in 3D. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been a lot
New
of fun.
technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then AI will layer in on top of that, and somebody will do your job for you, right?
I've already got my goggles
there
to check it out next time around.
Very cool. Very cool. So before we introduce our guest, we have a question from one of our viewers. Robert Lee from Philadelphia would like to know, it's a good question for you, should he rent or buy his commercial building for his business?
Okay, Robert, thanks for the question. This is an it depends answer. If you're in high growth mode and you're not sure where you're going to be in the next couple of years, it probably makes sense to lease or find some alternative office space for yourself. If you're trying to build wealth, if you're an established company, you know that you're not going to be growing in that location, it may make sense to acquire a building. The one caveat to that is you could end up finding yourself as a landlord, and that brings its own level of expertise that you may not have when you want to focus on your own business. So again, it depends, but this is a very personal decision that you make in the context of what your business goals are.
Great. So hopefully that was helpful, Robert. I think the bottom line is it's best to probably seek advice from some kind of real estate expert to help you think through that, because there are, like Rija said, lots of variables to consider. It's always great to hear from our viewers. To submit for a future episode, here's how to send your questions to Money Matters TV.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back. Our guest today has spent more than 25 years working with clients on both sides of business transactions, guiding buyers and sellers through the complexities of a business sale. Bruce Fenton partnered with Pepper Hamilton, where he leads the private equity practice group and the investment funds industry group, where he has spent years in practicing law with Pepper Hamilton. Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Rija and I are very happy and excited to welcome you to Growth Stories. We're looking forward to having you share some of your expert advice and perspective. Today we're trying to help business owners kind of understand the situations that they might run into as they consider a business transition. So what I'd like to do is start the conversation, maybe just give an overview of your practice to give our viewers a sense of kind of where you're coming from and the sides of the law that you're looking at and helping clients with.
Yeah, so as you said, I chair Pepper's private equity practice. So a large amount of my practice involves private equity transactions on both the buy side and the sell side. Typically those buy-side transactions, because most of what I do is in the middle market, and in fact more specifically what we would call the lower middle market, which is really transactions valued in the say $50 million to $200 million range. Although I've done a lot in the lower middle market or the micro market, kind of 25 to 50 million as well. Those transactions typically would be private equity transactions in which the private equity group is buying the company from a founder. Okay. So it really fits in, I think, very well with what you folks talk about on a monthly basis. The private equity sale transactions generally, quite frankly, are just to larger private equity groups as it kind of goes up the food chain. Perhaps more relevant or at least equally relevant to our conversation, a large portion of my practice, smaller than the PE part, but still a large part, is I do a lot of representations of founders in sale-side transactions.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think that's a lot of what the companies that we talk to, mostly founder-run businesses.
Yeah.
So that would be very germane to the conversation. That's great.
That's great. And Bruce, you're so passionate about what you do and the conversations we've had. Can you tell us a little bit about what got you started and how you landed in this role?
Yeah, thank you. The funny thing is, I grew up in a family business scenario myself. Originally, my grandmother on my father's side, she was a New York City school teacher, and she really, during the 1940s, couldn't make enough money as a New York City school teacher to support her family. And so she, as a divorced woman living in New York in the 1940s, started her own business, which my father then went into, and my mother, when my mother and father got married, my mother went into it, and at various times my step-grandfather was in it, my uncle was in it, my older brother went into it, and then the business finally closed in 2001, and a victim of a major technology disruptor, which is something that I know we've talked about, just kind of preparing for this time, how disruption is and the possibility of disruption is so critical. It's such a critical factor for business owners to always be thinking about what the dangers are and what the possibilities are. So I grew up in a family that they were constantly talking about business. And it's funny, my parents at dinner would talk about how my mother and father would work together every day and have no time to talk to one another at all. So they'd get home, and at the dinner table they'd be talking, and my mother would say, "Did you talk to the lawyers today?" And my father would go, "Yeah, we can't do it." And next week, "Did you talk to the lawyers?" Yeah, I can't do that either. And the little 5-year-old Bruce couldn't understand why the lawyers were telling the clients that they couldn't do things.
Right.
So I literally grew up wanting to be the lawyer who would say to clients, "Yeah, I figured out a way you can do this. It's your business, and you should be able to do what you need to do to run your business."
The lawyer who could.
The lawyer, right? The little lawyer who could, exactly. I think I can. I think I can. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Book
Maybe we could
recommendations.
recommend that.
That's right.
Yes, that's a book to read. The Little
That's
Lawyer
right.
Who Could.
The Little Lawyer Who
That's
Could.
awesome. Well, that's a really interesting story. I've known each other for a long time. I don't know if I knew the family business, but the perspective of the 5-year-old Bruce hearing that the lawyer, so many times you hear, a lawyer who gets business and looks for ways to get things done. Entrepreneurs out there, that's the kind of lawyer you want to find, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about taking the next step, protecting yourself from the downside risk, obviously, but being smart about it and being able to do the things you want to do to grow the business.
Well, exactly, and one of the great things about founders, about entrepreneurs, is they are brave enough to take risks,
Right.
and they are foresighted enough to see opportunities that others may not see. So you have this very unique set of people who are just fascinating and really do see things differently from how other people do. And these are people who really need to be not told no and not told that's impossible or you can't do it, but let me find out why. Let me find the right people to help you.
Right.
Let's make sure we have advisors who have the right experience and the right skill set so that you actually can accomplish what your vision is, what your goals are. Because and not only does that help that entrepreneur, but so much of job creation in America is through small businesses,
Right.
and so much of the economy is driven. Obviously, large businesses are important, but today's small business is next decade's monolith.
Right. We work with a lot of small businesses that exist because large corporations outsource a lot of things now, right? They focus more on their core business and hire these other companies to support them, and that springs up a whole group of smaller businesses that are founder-led. So, curious, we mentioned earlier that you work on both sides of the deal, and you talked a little bit about the
Not
personality.
at the same time.
Not at the same time. Every lawyer is good about maintaining their allegiance to one side or the other.
Fiduciary in that.
Exactly.
Conflicts
Exactly.
avoided. But so you do get to see, you shared a little bit about the perspective of an entrepreneur and that kind of visionary and willing to take risks, and contrast that a little bit, if you would, the personality of that entrepreneur that maybe has been running his business 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Now all of a sudden he's considering turning over the reins to an equity investor, right? Somebody who's going to look at the business a little bit differently, look to find value elsewhere. What is the contrast between those two parties?
Well, all of the things that got that business owner to where he or she is and in a position to actually realize value, have a liquidity event, are still there, but questions that really haven't come up previously, or have come up but haven't necessarily either been conclusively answered, or the conclusive answer is to seek outside investment, kind of comes to the fore. So I'm sure major issue that you guys deal with at Sharp is in terms of dealing with first and second generation businesses. Everybody knows the story of the statistics of how many family businesses get to the second generation or the third generation, and virtually none get to the fourth generation.
Right.
So when there's the founder, when the founder still leads the business, the founder is frequently the best salesman, is frequently the one who knows all the tricks of the trade, all the best suppliers, all of the shortcuts if there are problems. It knows, it doesn't necessarily know the inside and out of the books, but knows generally all the
There's usually
really
a few
relevant
key financial metrics
right.
they have in their head, and they look at those. And
Right, but private equity investors are very much not operating people. Now, they have operating people, and they have great operating expertise to draw on, and they're actually terrific advisors from a board perspective. But private equity people are not really looking to operate the business that they would be investing in. So the needs of the private equity investor, and frequently the reality of the legacy founder, can conflict. Because now sometimes they work out well on a temporary basis, because really that first stage private equity investment is, I would say, as often as not, is really a bet on the founder. It's not so much a bet on the business, because the business is the founder, and the founder is the business. And so the financial metrics need to be there, and the diligence needs to check out, but at the end of the day, the private equity firm is investing in the founder. But long term, firstly, chances are the founder's doing that because the founder has gotten to a point in his or her life where the founder wants to take a step back, take some money off the table, maybe travel, whatever
all the
else
things
they're
they haven't
doing.
been able to do because they've
Right.
been running the business 24/7.
That's exactly right. So that's where the goals start conflicting. And one of the things that it was always fascinating to me growing up was when I'd go to my parents' business, it was my last name on the door. And there's a kind of a power and responsibility that comes with that when an institutional investor comes in, it's really very different. Even if the investment's a minority investment, the private equity investor will make sure that key decisions are subject to approval by the investor. So the biggest differences are ultimately the goal of the private equity investor is to make sure no one is irreplaceable, because accidents happen, and even not accidents, planned retirements happen. So that's one. And the other thing is founders can be interested in the long haul, can be 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
The
Running
private
business
equity
forever.
horizon is 3 to 5, 3 to 7. So
the whole timeline is different too. So the things you want to do with the business, the investments you want to make, is
That's
completely
exactly
different.
right.
Yeah, the growth that you're looking at.
that's right.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
So tell us a little bit about companies you've worked with, or these funding events that you've worked with and on, that give us a perspective of roadblocks you've hit or your clients have hit. And if you were able to ultimately move forward with the transaction, anything that had to be corrected or redirected to make that happen?
Well, there are, every deal's unique,
Right.
and there are an infinite number of roadblocks, but generally speaking, as you kind of put it a slightly different way, if there were a couple of things that founders should kind of put on their list of, absolutely before you decide that now is a good time to sell, things you should be thinking about before, not during, or not immediately before or during,
Right.
but really giving yourself time to make sure that the business has thought about it and worked through it. I'd say they really fall into a couple of categories. And the first one, increasingly, intellectual property is a critical component of so many businesses these days. And sometimes founders don't even realize that they have intellectual property because they don't necessarily have a patent filed or registered copyrights or that sort of thing. And you just ask a simple kind of question, well, how do you do what you do? Oh, it's a secret. Ah, okay, well that's intellectual property. And usually it's not a, I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean, typically the founder smiles and it's like, wow, cool, I have intellectual property. But that's what a trade secret is. And what about a website? Well, there's so many people use the web to either advertise or sell product or services. The IT aspects of that are the privacy rules, the protection of client information, customer information. All of that gets increasingly complicated. Particularly now you've got the European rules, the GDPR, and you say, well, I'm in the United States, but the internet knows no boundaries, and if you have European customers, you need to be complying with all of the relevant rules. So the time to make sure that your IP portfolio is in place and your IT compliance, your policies, your procedures, your protection is not when you've already opened the data room to the buyer and the buyer's pointing out that you haven't done these things. Because the way sale transactions work is actually very simple. You pick a price, you sign a letter of intent that you will sell your business at that price, and then the buyer, while negotiating the purchase agreement with the seller, has an opportunity to either do confirmatory diligence if they've already done diligence, or to really do the bulk of their diligence. Anything that comes up during that period, if it's positive, believe me, it's not going to increase the purchase price. The purchase price is never going up.
It's always going the other way.
It's only going the other way. So if something comes up in diligence, the cost to fix that or to do what should already have been done will be taken out of the purchase price. So to put it simply, the price only goes down. So the best way to ensure a founder maximizes the price that the founder thought the founder had bargained for is to have all of these diligence items done before the company is marketed for sale. So I picked IP just as an example. But there are other examples of that. Financial statements is a very good one. I mean, typically buyers will formulate their valuation off of the financial metrics in the financial statements. If those financial statements are inaccurate, the price is going down.
Right.
If there are compliance with law issues. Taxes are a very big issue. These days, sales taxes are an extremely hot topic because there was a recent case that expanded the ability of states to collect sales tax. The rule used to be that you really needed to have physical, they call it nexus, but a physical presence in a state for the state to assert sales tax.
Okay.
We're getting close to the end.
Yeah.
This has been great. What I'd love to see if you could just give us a quick thing. I mean, is private equity market still hot, or valuations for business owners? Is it still a good market?
Yeah, hot like 666th layer of hell hot. I mean, it's like
Still
an
a good time to
inferno. The word that everybody in the industry uses, which I'm not a fan of, but if you use this word, you're an insider. It's frothy.
Frothy market.
The valuations are extremely high. They are. It's a great time to sell, assuming things stay the same. Interest rates are still low. The market is conditioned to paying higher valuations. A lot of cash out there.
Okay, great. You wanted to ask Bruce. We like to get from our viewers one book.
Do.
One book
I'd
that
love to hear a book that you would recommend that our viewers read.
I'm actually a very big fan of Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and I also read a book called Never Eat Alone, which really kind of focuses on the importance of networks and relationships in business, because it's not just facts and figures and the internet. I mean, there's a real human component to business.
That's fantastic.
This has been great, Bruce. Thank you very much. The time has flown. We appreciate you spending it with us. Thank you for joining us for Growth Stories. The next guest will be Claudia Wirt with Wells Fargo Advisors. As a reminder, you can download the podcast from iTunes and Stitcher, as well as check us out on our YouTube channel, money-matterstv.com. Thank you very much. Have a great day.